Smartphone does not make you smart, but dull. Es entfremdet dich, deiner selbst. Here is my body. The body is always in the here and now. The body cannot be in another place at the same time. The body is always in the here and now. Another thing is always in the here and now, that the breath. I cannot repeat the breath I did 3 days ago or 10 years ago. These breaths are gone. And I cannot breathe for the next 3 days in advance because I don't have time to breathe. So tomorrow maybe, so I breathe now for the next 3 days. Breathing is in the here and now. So we have two tools to be in the here and now: the body and the breath. Of these two tools, I will give more detailed instructions later on. Now we come to the third element, the mind. There are so many people criticizing the mind. The mind is a monkey. It jumps from one branch to the other, from one idea to the other, and most of the time, the mind is thinking about things of the past and then about the future, making some plans for tomorrow, for the next 20 years. Maybe you are already dead in 1 year. And the mind is rarely in the present moment. There are very few things which catch the mind and hold the mind in the present moment. One moment when we nearly are more present is when people are making love. But not even at this time they are in the present moment. You may make love to one woman and think about another woman. So that's no guarantee that the mind is really in the love act. So this is they're doing this critique that the mind is not very rarely in the present moment, more time in the past and more time in the future. But I would say there isn't even a worse thing about the mind. It is most of the time outside of the body, thinking about things of the outer world instead of being in the body and being aware of what's going on inside the body and the mind itself. Because this culture, which is not a culture, it's a technological culture, but it's not the spiritual culture, does not tell us how to keep the mind inside and what we should do when we look inside. Our head is filled up to the brim with outside stuff. We have all the results of the football teams in our head. We have the numbers of the stock exchange in our head. We have all the news in our head. We are thinking about the next elections, who will be the next president in our head. And we remember that we were on the beach last year. So we have pictures of the outside world in our mind. We are always thinking about things of the outer world, but not what's going on inside. The emotions, they bubble up and go away. Body sensations, if they are not painful, we are not aware of them. Only when your stomach hurts you, then you become conscious about that you have a stomach, and the mind is in the stomach, and you don't look at the girls on the streets because now the mind is occupied with the pain in your stomach. So only when you something is wrong with the body, the mind turns to the body. Therefore, some religions even say that suffering is good. Suffering brings you back to yourself, and I agree with this. That's the only way that you go back to yourself when something is wrong with your body, and obviously something wrong with your emotions, when you are sad, when you're depressed, then you are forced to go back to yourself, to the body, to the mind, and reconnect the mind to your body. So, the coming now to the smartphone. Here I have a smartphone. Here I am, my body, and obviously my mind, and here is a smartphone. So, what causes a smartphone? You, most people now are addicted to the smartphone. They wake up and immediately they check their emails, and they have go even to the bathroom with the smartphone. And one guy said, "When I make love, we are not. We are always three: my girlfriend, me, at the smartphone." So there are people, even when they make love, they in the smartphone rings, they stop making love and they read the email or the message they get from a person who is not present. That's the most important thing. The person who is not present seems to be more important than the person you are with in this moment. So the smartphone keeps you outside, and you forget yourself. You're not conscious what's going on inside, how your breathing is, how your heartbeat is, what's going on in your stomach, how your spine is, how is your neck. You are not aware of it because the mind is occupied with the smartphone. So the smartphone holds you outside. If there is no any message, what's the use of the smartphone? Entertainment. To fill an apparently empty time. Ever look when people are waiting somewhere? Let's say in the airport or in a business with the dentist. What are they doing? Taking out the smartphone and watching something, maybe movies, notice, listening to music, something which is outside themselves. So they they have to be entertained because they're so disconnected from themselves that they don't know what to do when there's nothing to do. They don't know what to do with themselves because they even there are programs in your smartphone how to meditate. What kind of meditation is this? It's just a superficial, commercialized, some simple meditation which you cannot even call meditation. Even this keeps you outside. So, smartphone doesn't make you smart, but insensible and dull. What does it mean? I was, I grew up in the woods. My vision as a child was wide. The whole wood was at my disposal. I was climbing up high trees and watching down from a high tree. And modern, the children of today, their vision is so small, it shrinked just to a screen, a small screen. When I was really experiencing nature, the sun, the wind, the space running through the woods, watching the animals, the deer, life. For most people, they prefer to watch a movie about trees, listening to birds on in a video. They have videos with running water and the wind in the trees, but they don't hear real wind in the trees. Even when they are out in nature, they are so insensible already, so dull, and the attention span and concentration is so limited. They get bored. Being in the wood, they get bored. What shall I do in the wood? Okay, well, we do some jogging. Okay, I have my mountain bike. That's important. So I run over the stones. They are so little aware about the whole wood. When you are occupied with your mountain bike, you are occupied not to punch into a stone, so you don't listen to the birds. You don't listen to the wind in the trees. You really don't feel the 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 wood, the smell of the pines. No, because you rush with your mountain bike through the woods. So smartphone makes you dull. But the world, the outside world, enters us through our five senses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, and touch. But because people are so disconnected, the mind is so disconnected from the body and also from the sight senses, and especially because there is no time. Everything has to be rushed, fast food, so you don't have time to really taste the food. And when you see the commercials, within 30 seconds, you get so many images uh, in your eyes, like thunder, thunder. thunders, lightning, chest, 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 chest. So you cannot concentrate on one image for a long time. People need music, always a noise around them. They cannot stand silence. So they need the music. There are people doing jogging at the same time listening music. There are people who are doing yoga with music. So they don't listen to the inner music of the body, the outer music, which distracts you, but people say, okay, it relaxes me. But when will you be able to listen inside on the flow of the movement? There's the inner music, the inner rhythm in the body. And then smelling. Okay, you need the smell, the incense. In the, otherwise, you can meditate. You need your incense, which stimulates you. Okay, and uh, there is no checking of what enters through the five senses. And there's so much impressions because people think the more I see, the more I hear, the more I enjoy life. But there is a phrase which says, small is beautiful. I would say, slow is intensive. Slow down, and you will see more. Not by seeing much, you will see more, but by see less. Shall be selective and concentrate your eyes or the gaze on something like structure of a flower for a longer time, watching a landscape for a long time. But what are people doing when they see something? Today, uh, it's so easy to take a picture. So people see something and immediately take a picture. And they really don't see what they see. I don't take any pictures. I meant to make a mental picture. When I see, let's say, a church or a Buddhist temple, I make a mental picture. I look at it, close the eyes. There it is, the mental picture. I open the eyes, compare the inner image to the outer image, and then it is inside me, in my memory. But for most people, they're traveling through the world and take thousands and thousands of pictures. And where's the picture? Where are these pictures in a smartphone, the memory of a smartphone? And when you ask them, what have you seen when you went through Singapore? Let's say, well, let me say here I have my pictures of Singapore. They hardly can remember where they have been. So, smartphone makes you dull, makes your memory weak, because now you have everything in your memory. That was the memory of the smartphone and not in your memory. Before the, the books were invented, oh, well, we don't need to go too far. For example, for hundreds of years, Buddhist teachings were transmitted from 500 before Christ to about 200 before Christ. It was not written down, it was memorized. So the capacity of memorization was tremendous. Same with the Vedas. They were transmitted over 1,500 years, were transmitted mentally. Because people had this, even the people could already you could write it down. But they said, no, you have to keep it in mind. So if you need some teaching, you don't have to carry a book, you carry it in your mind. And slowly, what you carry in your mind, because it's in your mind, will transform you. When you carry the book, you don't have it in your mind, the book will not transform you. So, memory. Today, everybody needs to have the smartphone to organize the day so they know what they will do tomorrow. But it is not necessary. It drain your mind. Visualize your day. At 10 o'clock, I would be in such a place. At 11 o'clock, we would talk to this person. At 12 o'clock, I would be in another place and I would talk to such a person. And I give you another tool for memorizing. Use your fingers. For example, I'm giving speeches. I never use any paper to write down my speeches. I use my fingers. So I know exactly that's in the introduction. These are the first part, the second part, the third part, and the ending of the speech. So I know exactly now I'm here. Introduction. The second, this finger is the first part of my speech. Has has a word, the title, as a second, as a third. And now I come to the conclusion, to the end. So when I say that people give a speech, they have their smartphone, chung, 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 chung. And if you take away, if they lose the smartphone, they will be unable to give you a speech. They're the teleprompters. You know this, that the politicians need teleprompters, otherwise they will not be able to give a speech. But that shows me, well, most of these speeches, they are not even written by the politicians themselves. They are the people writing them for them, and the politician is just reading it. What do you think? Did Jesus, if he really lived, did Jesus have a teleprompter when he was teaching? No, he was his teaching. Did the Buddha, who preached or who gave speeches, sermons for 45 years, he never wrote anything down. He could write, I'm sure he could write, but he never wrote anything down. And later generations finally wrote it down. Do you think that Buddha would have a concept, some paper? So tonight I will give a speech about this and this? No. He had it in his mind, and he was speaking freely. It's the same thing. As I said, I give speeches. I have my speech not on paper. I have the speech in my mind. So for this video, because of my English is not so good, so I need I need a concept, so I don't struggle with the English so much, but I can concentrate more on what I'm saying. So here's a smartphone, and here am I. What? That's in the end of the critic. Now comes the positive part. What should we do? Create, especially when we are using the smartphone as entertainment, distractions, and to fill spare time when we are waiting, we need something inside which entertains you, so we can entertain ourselves with what we have inside, with what we are. So we can do something when there's nothing to do. What is it? When you work with the body in different ways, you may do Tai Chi, you may do yoga, you know your body, you are conscious about your body, you remember many, many sensations provoked or uh, which rise when you do some exercises. So they have a rich experience and a rich memory of body sensations. Uh, you just can, when there's nothing to do, when you're sitting in the dentist's waiting room, you just can do a body scan. You remember certain sensations in your right foot, and you direct your mind into the right foot, and you can even do some movements with the foot and then enjoy the sensations in your body, enjoy being in your body. So that's with respect to the body. You can do, for example, in the airplane. What are people doing? Or they watch movies. There's so many selections now. You can select your own movie. Stupid movies, most of them. And then, or they have their smartphone or their bed, and they entertain themselves. What else could you do? You could do what I'm doing finger exercises. So it holds, brings my mind back into the body, holds the mind inside the body, and I concentrate, let's say, in the right hand and enjoy finger movements, the possibilities of the fingers, what they can do to move. So that the active part, and then I relax, concentrate on the central point of the finger, and then concentrate my mind on this point and the sensation uh, which were arose through the exercises. The same with the airplane. If there is some space, you can do your leg exercises, your foot exercise, moving, or just uh, work your spine, work your spine. So you are back into yourself, and you don't you don't be a slave or addict. Let's say in this case of the movies you see, or a slave of your smartphone. In the yoga classes I'm giving at the beginning, obviously everybody brought the smartphone with them, and somebody from the family, while we were doing the yoga poses, were calling. And what did the lady do? They got out of the posture and rushed to the smartphone to answer. And there was many times really stupid question. Mama, where are the beans? Mama, I cannot find this and this. Then I said to this women, mostly women, the whole day you care for your family. You care for the house, for the kitchen, for the cooking, for the dog, for the cat. You are caring for other people. Now be egoistic. This hour and a half you're here is yours. Forget about the family. Now it's just you. You are doing something good for yourself, for your body, for your health, for your mind. So be here now and forget about the family. If somebody calls you, don't answer. And finally, they understood it, and now nobody is answering the phone anymore because I said, well, it was just once that it was really some urgency. But most of the time, 99%, it's just rubbish. So there's no need to answer the phone. There's no urgency. The people should wait and you can call later. But you can also say from 6 to 7:30, I am in my yoga class, don't call me. I really use a smartphone and when I'm meditating or doing my exercises, I never answer any phone. So the conclusion is don't be a slave. Don't be of your smartphone. Don't be addicted to your smartphone. It can be useful for certain things. But become more independent of the smartphone. Don't use it as a memory. Use your own memory here in your head. And who is stronger, the smartphone or you? Obviously, the best would be that you are stronger. If the smartphone rings, who is more important? You. When you are going out with people, let's say to a restaurant, be with the people in front of you. And I have seen there were two women in the restaurant, two friends. Obviously, they said, well, let's have lunch together. And when they were in the restaurant. They they were not really in the restaurant, and they were not together because they were sitting at the same table. They had the food on the table, but they were not mentally there. Each of the women was talking to somebody who was not here. So they lost two things. They lost the taste of the food because they were talking and they were at the same time they were eating. And they lost the real life communication with the person in front of them, face to face. And this is now the main problem with the smartphones. The loss of, obviously, it is for communication, but there is less communication. The person who is not here seems to be more important than the person who is in front of you, face to face. And even I heard about the people saying, for me, it's easier to communicate through the smartphone with a person I don't see who is far away, instead of being face to face, talk to face to face. So it seems smartphone makes us more, helps the communication. No, it makes you more lonely. Here you are alone. You just look at the people on the street. They don't see what's going on around them. They are looking at the small screen. They don't, it's like ignoring the other people. They don't see what's going around. They are not aware of other people. They are not aware what's going on here or there. Only when there is an accident, yes, they are quick and to take a photo then. So they are just slow, lonely zombies walking in the street, absorbed, absorbed with their smartphone. So instead of communication, there's more loneliness, fear to be in front of other people. And the other thing is also the people cannot talk anymore about themselves. They just make short sentences, and even they mutilate the words. Uh, when we see that in even in the 18th, 19th century, how there was no smartphone, obviously, people took the time to write long letters to each other, talking about their feelings. And we have collections of people of letters. I don't even talk about love letters, about the people communicating, scientists, artists, writers, and so communicating each other. And now they collected this letters, and we have this. It's amazing how long these letters are, and the people really had, first of all, a wider vocabulary than the young people today. They shrink. They can do it with 20 words a day. That's enough. But the other people, they were really writing artfully. They had a big vocabulary, and they were able to articulate what they felt, to articulate what they saw. Another thing is the diaries. It was very common. I did it for many, many years, writing diaries that trains your mind to express your feelings in words and to clear your mind. All this writing long letters is gone. Writing diary is outdated, though the communication skill become less and less. Well, everything goes so fast that you don't have time to write a whole sentence, just a few words disconnected, not the full sentence. So this illusion that that we are more communicated is wrong. It's the opposite. We communicate less than before. So reduce the use of a smartphone, be more inside, keep your mind more inside than outside. At least it should be balanced. You direct yourself to the outside world, and there comes the difficult part, to go back to yourself. Once the mind is accustomed to be always outside, it is very difficult to come back because you feel bored. You feel bored with yourself. You feel bored within your four walls. And the cell phone, you can communicate with so many things which are outside of your daily world. But it's especially boredom. When you are in a spiritual discipline or spiritual way that you are practicing every day, then you have such a richness, an inner richness, that you are independent of entertainment, outside entertainment. You don't have to go to parties to be entertained. Do you ever think that a great artist would spend so much time in parties? Michelangelo spending time in the restaurant, okay, he might have gone to a restaurant, but spending hours and hours painting, that fills you. I like to write, and that it's such a satisfaction to write, to create, being creative. Now something comes from inside. You create it, and you create it according to your own taste. How you want to write something, so you don't depend on other people how they are writing. Okay, I'm reading other texts too, and I'm studying them, and I said, well, I would like to write like this person, or I can do it better than this person. So being creative makes you less dependent on outside distractions, on outside entertainment. You don't depend so much on other people to become more selective, because most people are not so interesting that you should spend hours with them. So you have selected friends where you can really have a deep and good distraction. Uh, Sometimes when I knew some people, they say, well, I invite you on a cup of wine. I say, okay, but I would prefer a good conversation. If there's no wine, no matter. I prefer a good conversation. Can you do that? Then they look at me because nobody asked them this. They think that serving a wine that or beer that would be enough. Because then you may talk about the wine, the quality of the wine, the compare some beer with the others, but really you talk about yourself, what's really going on within yourself. So people are really shy to talk about that what's really inside them. Okay, if you don't have a friend, then write it down, have a diary, write it down, so later on you can read it. Though the most important part is, yes, right, the mind jumps from past to future, and seldom is in the present moment. We use the body to keep the mind in the present moment. And how do we do it? We are conscious about the posture in which the body is at a given moment. In Buddhist meditation, They divide it in four: uh, body lying down, body sitting, standing, and walking, and all these movements, postures in between. So you are conscious in which position the body is. You're sitting at a table, okay, it's sitting. Going to the refrigerator is going. And the daily activities, the duty at hand, what you are doing at this moment, it is, most people are just interested in that things get done. And they don't care how they are doing it. But we should ask ourselves the three questions. What am I doing? Okay, I'm preparing my coffee. How do I do it? While I'm preparing my coffee, what's going on in my mind? Is the mind in the movements of the hands, in the action itself? Or while the hands are preparing the coffee, the mind wanders around to somewhere else? So it's how do I prepare the coffee? With a concentrated mind or with an absent mind? And then the third question would be, what for? Okay, you can say, okay, I need my coffee to wake up in the morning, or you addicted coffee drinkers. So we have these three questions. What am I doing? Preparing coffee. How am I doing it? With mindfully, being aware what I'm doing. And what for it, am I doing it? Just to get a drink? Maybe coffee is not good for me. Hmm? Maybe it's better to drink orange juice. So you reflect on it. And concentration on the posture and concentration on movement. In Buddhism, they are doing the slow walking. Slow walking makes you again conscious about such a simple act like walking. As I said before, people who walk on the streets, they are not conscious about their walking. They are not conscious what the body is doing. And there are people who just pump into other people because they are concentrated in their on their smartphone, and they are not a bit conscious about what the body is doing while the body is walking, because the mind is in something else. So this slow walking, kinhin, which the Buddhists are using slow as a kind of meditation in movement, makes you again conscious about such a simple act as walking. For most people, obviously, it is extremely boring because they say, well, I know how to walk. Why should I be aware of the walking? And I have other things to think about. But when you try to walk slowly, so many sensations are coming up, and so many things you never noticed because you never paid attention to them. Balance, you may lose your balance because they're slow, or the mind is ahead of the feet. So you have to bring the mind back, uh, or the mind is lacking back. No, the mind should be in the walking. Mind and body should be together. And for the first time, you have this feeling of the unity between body and mind. Same as eating, eating slowly. Obviously, the modern man has invented fast food. Americans should be Americans. Fast food. That's the high of stupidity. Fast food. That means you throw the food into your stomach as fast as possible. No tasting. Well, most of this fast food doesn't have any taste, so you have to put some ketchup on it so you get some taste. And it fast foods. Eat fast. Time is money. The faster you eat, the more time you have to make money. Stupid. So we do the opposite. Eat slowly. Eat slowly and you will eat less. Because when you eat, let's say, some vegetables, or even meat, very slowly, you think you have eaten a lot because you have eaten for a long time. And then you eat less because you even get tired of eating so slowly and eating so long. So the modern world is getting into a rush hour. So everything is getting faster, 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 faster. People are speaking faster, 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 and saying less and less and less. They're not conscious about how they speak. They're not conscious exactly what they are saying. Commonplaces, ready-made phrases. How are you? What's going on? How are you doing? Aha. So even eat slowly, speak slowly, and think more. Take your time to think and think about the other person. Don't like a waterfall throwing all over his head. He cannot think. Give the mostly they give the listener no time to think what they are saying. They're just like a waterfall throwing over them. So a good speaker takes his time and gives to the listener time so he can really listen and think about what he heard. And then comes the next part, what you want to transmit. So, generally speaking, slow down and simplify your life. We don't need to know all the news of the world, just selected news, and think more for yourself. When you listen to some news in your smartphone, be critical. Don't believe anything. If you know yourself, if you know your mind by observing the mind, knowing the mind, it's for you, it's easy to understand the thinking of other people. The problem is it gets boring because people are not original thinker, they are just repeating what they have heard. So even in this point when you know your mind, because you turn your mind back on your mind and observe the functioning of your mind, it becomes, yes, a little boring, and that helps you to detach yourself from your mental processes, and say, okay, the mind is running, because as long as we are living, the brain is active, but you just detach from your mental stream of thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. So you can even slow down the way of thinking, and you don't suffer this excessive thinking. The people, they have such a turmoil in their head, and they are thinking and thinking and thinking, but they are really not quality thoughts. It's just uh, going on like a machine running, which you cannot stop. So the conclusion is the relationship between mass, smartphone, and mindfulness. Mindfulness is more important than your smartphone. Your inner life, your inner world should be richer than the outer world. So you are independent from the outer world, and you know how to withdraw from the outer world and feel good within yourself. I know that some people, when I say meditate, just close your eye, look inside, they say, what shall I look for? It needs some technique and practice and experience. Then you know what to look for when you close your eyes. It is not for searching something. Things come up by themselves. You don't have to search for them. So balance the inner and the outer. Remember the symbol of the yin and the yang. There's a active part and there is the passive part. You're active in the outside world, and the passive part is the inner world, the inner activity, the meditative state, which is also a certain kind of activity. It's the white point in this black part, the white point, the active activity. So think about the yin and yang symbol, and be free from this addiction to your smartphone.